Hey friends, thanks for joining me. I've been reading out of this book called God Therapy by Timothy Lane. It has to do with deliverance and inner healing. And I'm on chapter 4, Healing the Inner Child. I like to take more time to talk about the inner child. While digging into those deep, dark places, you will sometimes find that even though you may be an adult, there is an inner child that is still wounded and traumatized. This is not saying that people have dissociative identity disorder, but when we are faced with trauma, severe pain, or abuse, our body has a natural way of disassociating. Things that adversely affect our conscious get buried into our subconscious so we can survive the moment. Your body has a way of self-numbing, but that doesn't mean the wound is not there. What happens is, if that wound is not properly addressed, you can emotionally and mentally get stuck in that moment where the wound occurred. As I stated before, a lot of people aren't aware of this because it is living in their subconscious. Inner healing brings things from the subconscious to the conscious. Having a wounded inner child is a big issue when it comes to sexual abuse. This is a topic where, unfortunately, our culture hides. If a child is sexually abused, it is crucial that they get the proper care, support, and therapy. If not, that pain will remain. Even though they may bury it, they will still carry it. And as an adult, it will show up in things like their self-esteem, self-motivation, homosexuality, promiscuity, social skills, trust, spirituality, etc., etc. They may explode, that is, become a very angry person that's easily triggered, or implode, meaning they become very reserved, isolated, and have a catastrophic disposition. Here are some steps in bringing healing to your inner child. 1. Identify the inner child. You can do this by closing your eyes and picturing yourself as a child during the time the trauma or wound occurred. Do a mental narrative of what was happening and how it made you feel. You also can talk out loud or write it down on a piece of paper. As the wounds begin to surface, there's your inner child that's carrying that wound. If your inner child is still wounded, those same feelings will manifest in your adulthood. That inner child may still be afraid, angry, ashamed, vulnerable, etc. It's important to get to know your inner child and what they are going through. My counseling team, which consisted of a group of men, believed that in order to be an effective therapist, you needed to go through it yourself. We would do this by sitting in circles and discussing our issues. I noticed that every time it was my turn to talk, my heart would beat fast, my hands would sweat, and I would become stressed. For years I ignored this, but I finally decided to trace it back to the root. While looking within myself, I realized that there was a wound that I experienced in my childhood that caused me to be afraid to speak in front of men, and I carried a belief system that I was incompetent. This was my inner child who was still wounded by past trauma. 2. Release the pain that the inner child is carrying. As you are doing the narrative about the trauma or painful event and that wounded inner child, it's important to allow the pain to surface and release it. This is done by allowing yourself to cry, be angry, hurt, etc. Take deep breaths and picture yourself releasing the pain as it surfaces. It also helps to make a noise as the pain is surfacing. Also, as you feel the wound, picture Jesus holding your inner child and you releasing all the pain, hurt, and anger into his loving arms as he holds you. Number 3, develop a healthy relationship with your inner child. We tend to do to ourselves what was done to us. If you grew up under verbal abuse, then as an adult you can become verbally abusive toward yourself. If you grew up in a strict household, then you can become hard on yourself and have unrealistic expectations for yourself. One of the healthiest relationships you need to have to live a happy life is a loving, supportive relationship with yourself. In order to soothe and relieve difficult emotions from your inner child, you must be compassionate and loving to yourself. Most of us continue to wound our inner child because of our negative self-talk or unhealthy thoughts we have toward ourselves. When we have a poor relationship with ourselves, we become emotionally mental masochist and continue to wound an already wounded inner child. For example, your inner child might be wounded because you did not receive the love you needed from your parents. Your inner child is carrying rejection. In order to heal that inner child, you must accept your inner child by loving on yourself and speaking compassionate words to yourself. Tell yourself it is okay to feel hurt and wounded. It doesn't mean you are weak or something is wrong with you. It means you've been hurt. Let your inner child know that even though it was neglected as a child, the adult you is going to care for it, protect it, and love it. Speak to your inner child about the love of Jesus and how he will never leave you or forsake you. In a sense, you must be the parent to that inner child that you never had. This may sound weird, but clinically and spiritually it works. If you were abused as a child in any way, you may be an adult, but there is a wounded child in there that still needs to be loved, comforted, and ministered to. I've had many sessions where I realized that I was no longer talking to the adult person, but the inner child. There was a case where an individual was severely wounded because of verbal and physical abuse from both parents. During the session, the person appeared flat and non-emotional. When inquiring about the person's feelings regarding various painful events, the person consistently responded that they had no feelings. This person did not shed one tear. This let me know that the wounds this person experienced were buried deep inside and they'd coped by numbing themselves. For that person to be healed, I didn't need to talk to that physical person sitting in front of me, but the inner child that was hiding within. I needed to get from their head into their heart. I needed to get from their conscious to their subconscious, where the wounds were buried. Without me sharing with the client that what I was thinking, I began to go through the 7 steps of the God therapy model, and suddenly I saw a change in the client. The person that was flat and stated they had no feelings had a tear running down their face. Just a side note, even though most of us were erroneously taught not to cry, crying is a way that the body naturally releases pain. As the individual began to cry, I asked what they were feeling, and they stated nothing. This person was so detached and numb from the pain of their past that they were not conscious of what was visibly happening. So I continued with the process. By step 3 or 4, the person stopped me and said she saw a little girl in a dark place behind a closed door, and she was scared. The person then told me that they felt vulnerable. Within myself, I was leaping for joy because I knew a breakthrough was taking place. Because at the root cause of her issue, that inner child, the subconscious part of her that disassociated from her present reality for her to have some level of normalcy, was the one that needed to be healed and delivered. As I continued, I began to address the inner child and the wounds she was carrying and invited Jesus Christ to come and heal her broken heart. This person that was guarded and non-emotional began to weep, speak in tongues, and praise God. She got so caught up in God's presence that she forgot all about me in the session. Without me even addressing the demons, she began experiencing deliverance. Demons began to manifest and come out of her. Almost every time during the God therapy process, I have experiences where Jesus has completely taken over, and I sit back and follow his lead. A lot of times during the sessions, you and others participating will encounter supernatural phenomena. My assistant shared with me that while the lady was crying and praising God, she smelled a strong scent of bleach to the point where she could barely stand it. There wasn't any bleach close to the room. I explained to her that she was receiving a word of knowledge that this person was going through deep cleansing. During this God therapy process, these types of encounters are normal. Even though her healing and deliverance was complete in that first session, because we ran out of time, the process had started. Again, the level of deliverance and the number of sessions you will need depends on how open you are and where you are in the relationship with Jesus Christ and your relationship with yourself. After reading this book, if you feel like you need inner healing and deliverance, I would love to work with you. You can visit lanehelps.com to contact my staff or me for ministry. So that's Lane Helps, LANEHELPS.com. Also, God has not only called us to go through inner healing and deliverance, but He's called us to do it. This book is also a prelude to my God Therapy Training Academy, where I get even deeper about inner healing and deliverance and train you in mastering the 7 steps of God Therapy, the God Therapy model. Visit my website and contact me for the God Therapy Training Academy and coaching sessions. Going through inner healing and deliverance is a liberating experience, and doing inner healing and deliverance is an exciting and rewarding ministry. There are people all around you, on your job, in your family, and in your church that need you to step up into the ministries so lives can truly be changed for Jesus Christ. It doesn't matter the size of the church or what your ministry title is or isn't. We are not fully fulfilling our obligation as Christians if we're not doing inner healing and deliverance. Heal the sick. I'm going to finish this real quick. My dad just walked in. Give me like 2 minutes. Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely you have received, freely give. Matthew 10:8. And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name shall they cast out devils. They shall speak with new tongues. Mark 16:17. And when he called unto him his 12 disciples, he gave them power against unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal all manner of sickness and all manner of disease. Matthew 10:1. We cannot be content with being mediocre Christians. As you continue your journey by reading this book, I pray that your heart would be stirred to learn it, go through it, and then do it. Thanks for joining me, and yes, bye.